Welcome to Conscious Profits Unfiltered. This is your host, Sebastian Nam.
What up, fam? Today I had on Dominic Kalms, a 3-time venture-backed entrepreneur and philanthropist. He has raised over $120 million in venture and philanthropic capital during his career and has been featured in an array of media publications such as NBC, Forbes, CBS, Entrepreneur, BBC, Yahoo, and more. He was most recently profiled on the front page of entrepreneur.com as well as in Goldman Sachs Philanthropy web series. Dominics, no joke, fam. He's the founder and previous CEO of the popular online platform Giving, which Forbes called one of the most revolutionary platforms in the social impact space today. Today, Dominic is CEO of a new venture-backed fintech company, Be Generous, which is revolutionizing how people donate to nonprofits through the advent of the first ever philanthropic credit product. Think donate today, pay tomorrow. Essentially the Shopify of philanthropy. Dominic is also a well-known public speaker and has spoken at many global forums on philanthropy and technology such as the United Nations Summit, the Nexus Summit, Global Citizen Forum, TEDx, and the list goes on and on. Guys, this is one of my favorite shows to date because we really get into the concept of scaling impact through really creative business concepts that solve real-life problems at scale. And frankly, Dominic's a freaking badass entrepreneur with endless amounts of energy fueled by purpose. Guys, if you get value from the show, please share it with a friend, tag me on social, and definitely subscribe. It means the world to me. I appreciate you spending your time with us. Enjoy the show. Dominic, welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Stoked to have you on. Really stoked to have you on. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about impact. We're going to talk about purpose and profit, stuff that I love to talk about, and your new business venture. But first, I want to ask you the first question I ask my guests, which is, what was your last oh shit moment? Anything you can think of, good or bad?
Yeah, I have 10 of those a day. So
great.
It's, we're in the lead up to our launch for our product that we've been building for 18 months. And it is brutal. It is 20 to 22 hour days, 7 days a week. I'm not exaggerating. And I'm like chronically sleep deprived. So there's a myriad of those that I have every day. I forgot something. I didn't send an email on time. I didn't get back to someone on time. So I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Well, extra thank you then for being on. Stoked to have you on, man. 20-hour days, that's pretty gnarly, man.
It is. I'm a hard worker, but the pace is not sustainable in the long run. I mean, this is a pace that can be sustained for weeks, maybe months. I've been doing this for, we've been building a company for 18 months. It's always long hours, of course. It's a startup. We're venture capital backed. We raised a lot of capital. We raised a very large lending facility, which will make sense as I explain what we do. But so there's a lot riding on this, but so there's always long hours. But I mean, really the brutal element of it has come in sort of the last 4 to 5 months. And so I'm hoping that things get more reasonable at some point.
Absolutely. I was talking about the concept of balance a couple months ago with somebody, and we believe that a lot of the times we're thinking balance has to be like on a daily, right? And it's great if you can have balance on the daily, that's awesome. But I believe that for building businesses, I think it's totally okay. And I would call it like major sprints of weeks, months at a time, and then allowing that time later on to kind of recoup and regenerate. And I think I would still consider that balance, because if you have a big mission, that's the only way to accomplish it sometimes.
Absolutely. Balance is incredibly important. And I preach it and I do practice it as much as I can.
Yeah.
But I mean, having a work-life balance, healthy eating, healthy living is critical. I do what I can in the moments, but it's definitely something I need to focus on more.
I feel you, man. I feel you. Well, Dominic, impact and purpose are words that are now becoming mainstream in the corporate world. What does impact mean to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm the guy that came out of graduate school with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, went to work for Wall Street because everybody I knew went to work for Wall Street. I went to graduate school at Columbia University. My whole class effectively went to Wall Street. I thought, all right, you're supposed to go to Wall Street. So I went to Wall Street. I was making 6 figures and I hated it. And so I'm literally the guy who quit a 6-figure income job at a prestigious bank to write articles for $300 a pop at a think tank in Washington, D.C. about international affairs. And the reason I did that is because for me, impact is about following your passion in order to make the world a better place. And for me, I felt that my skills would better be utilized in trying to show the world what's happening in certain hotspots in certain areas in the world, which is why I got into the IR, international relations space, and less and use my skills less to push around buttons on a screen. And so, I followed my passion, I followed my dream. It was incredibly scary at the time, but I did it because I was genuinely passionate about what I wanted to do. And I've always been interested in doing something that could make the world a better place. That's been really something I've cared about since I was a young man.
I love that, man. I love that. A lot of us kind of grew up thinking that, think of like a champion of giving and impact, like a Mother Teresa, right? So then we grow up with this mentality that in order to give and make a difference in the world, we have to sacrifice, and it's got to be painful and it's got to hurt. How important is it to shift that mentality?
Yeah, I mean, impact doesn't, there's this idea, I think, going back many centuries even, that impact should be painful, it should be difficult. It's this sort of idea of, it's certainly rooted in theology in some aspects, right?
Yeah.
The penance, right, is this entire idea. And then you can take that to an extreme with, so I agree with you. I don't think that's the case, certainly not in the modern age. And that idea, though, has been so pervasive and so damaging to the impact movement because it's really infected. I use the word infected. It's infected everything, right? People used to think, for example, when you invested your capital in the markets, for example, it was like either you're an impact investor or you're looking for returns. Well, what we really realized, if you look at like the indices over the last 10 years that track the impact metric, the impact indices, and certain like ETFs and other, and even the broader markets, from the impact side of things, when you're tracking certain companies, those returns are incredible. They're just as good as non-impact companies, except now you have a positive externality in the world. So I think it's a false understanding and a false assumption. And I think that's been routinely proven wrong over the last particularly 2 decades.
So glad it has been. Yeah, absolutely. Dominic, in 2020, you started a nonprofit, End COVID-19, which donated hundreds of thousands of masks to hospitals, schools, Native American reservations, et cetera. I'm fascinated by the ability to be able to launch something so fast and just execute. What does it take as a leader to kind of create something out of nothing and just go now, other than 20-hour work days?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting, I had just gotten COVID. So this is when COVID exploded onto the scene. I had just gotten COVID. Yeah. I took my mother to the grocery store to help her get some groceries, and I knew it was a bad idea, but family is family. And I got COVID, and this was the OG COVID. This isn't like the Omicron and I have a cold. This is like the oh shit. This is my oh shit moment. This is like oh shit. I have this disease that nobody knows what the hell's going on. Yeah. Came from Wuhan. This is when no vaccines, no therapeutics. Nobody knew what the death rate was. This was very scary. And so I got it, and I recovered, thankfully. And when I recovered, this was also at the time when our country was having a massive shortage of things like N95s, medical masks, face shields, gloves, Purell. I mean, as you probably remember, you couldn't find these things. Yeah. And so because of my background and experience, what I did is I actually partnered up with a buddy of mine, and we called up a lot of our celebrity friends. I used to work at a private philanthropy consulting firm. All of our clients were celebrities. And so I had a lot of connections in that industry. And, today I'm actually on the board of Val Kilmer's foundation, and I'm on the fundraising board of Forrest Whitaker's foundation, both of whom are, friends of mine, and I've worked with both of them. But the point is, I called up a lot of my celebrity friends and entertainers and so forth. I said, look, we want to raise capital, and we want to raise philanthropic dollars, and we want to put this money, and we want to literally buy hundreds of thousands of N95 masks, face shields. We want to just give them away. We want to give them to hospitals and schools and Native American reservations and communities that don't have access to this stuff, PPE, right? Personal protective equipment. And so we basically ran this big campaign on my buddy's platform. We had everybody from David Blaine to Keaton Thompson to Naomi Campbell to Neo to Outkast. I mean, tons of celebrities, Jeremy Piven, all these interesting people. Kirsten Chenoweth, Emmanuel Shariki, and all these awesome people. And we were able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars during like the height of COVID. So this was like everyone was locked down and we were raising money. Yeah. We had a couple $100,000, and we basically went to the most reputable PPE suppliers at the time. There were very few, and everyone was trying to rip you off left and right. But I had contacted in the space, and we bought a significant number of medical masks, face shields, gloves, PR, all that stuff. We donated it to the Culver City School District in LA. I talked to the mayor there at the time. She was like ecstatic to have this. We donated it to Native American reservations across the United States. We donated it to a lot of hospitals in local in LA, and also I believe there's a hospital in Washington we donated to. So Kaiser Permanente. I mean, we got this stuff on the front lines, and I subsequently found out that our N95 masks were actually used. The ones that we donated were used at the first drive-through testing facility in LA to protect frontline workers. It was an incredible campaign, and I ultimately interviewed on CBS about it. But it was great, really impactful stuff.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. That's amazing that you did that. And so one of the things I'm hearing too is, if we go back to the original question, like, how can you build something so fast out of nothing? It sounds like you really just, it's like picking up the phone and really using the network and connecting with other people on a common mission and just using your network as much as possible, right? And it's just pushing hard in that sense, yeah?
That's definitely right. I think, because of my work in the space, because of my background, I had a pretty good network in this world. And I was able to tap into that. And, everybody wants to help. Something I found out is that if you ask, that's half the battle. Most people never ask. Most people never ask for help. They never ask for a favor. But the reality is you can contact almost anybody. I mean, I'm talking about like, from ex-presidents down to whoever. If you ask the question, that is half the battle. And I just ask.
That's just such simple, great advice for anybody listening. It's incredible. How are you, when you're building something with urgency and you're pushing people really hard because you're needing teamwork, you're asking for favors, but you're also maybe pushing your team and really pushing hard to get something off the ground. How are you able to still be a conscious leader when you're working people so hard and you're working so hard yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think, there's a great quote. I believe it's John Kabat-Zinn, and he says, "Wherever you go, there you are." And it seems very simplistic on its surface, but if you actually think about that on a daily basis, your life is happening at every single moment, right? We are here, I'm being present with you, and vice versa. If I'm thinking about 10 other things, I'm not living in the present. I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about the past. That creates anxiety, stress, frustration. There's nothing you can do about those things for the most part. You can't do much about the past. Can't do much about the future. All I can control is the moment that I'm in. So while you plan for the future and you try to learn lessons from the past, ultimately, you have to remember to be present. And so that is, I think, the biggest piece of advice I would ever give about being a conscious leader is you have to be present with your team members, present with what you're doing in that moment, and really focus on what's in front of you. Otherwise, you miss your life go by.
Presence. Beautiful. Dominic, quote here by Maya Angelou: "I have found that among its other benefits, giving liberates the soul of the giver." This is actually on the Giving website, which is a company that you started. And I would assume that in one way or another, this quote, "I have found that among its other benefits, giving liberates the soul of the giver." How does that resonate with you?
Well, it's absolutely true. I mean, not only is that sort of figuratively true, but literally there are innumerable benefits to be philanthropic, right? Study after study shows that people who are philanthropic are happier on average, have lower levels of stress, have lower levels of high blood pressure, lower levels of diabetes, lower levels of cancer, report a higher general satisfaction with life, less anxiety, less depression. It's incredible. The act of helping somebody actually has therapeutic benefits on the person who's doing the giving in many cases. And so, I actually have another company that I put aside while I'm running my existing company called Be Generous, called Philanthropy Therapy, which is the idea of using philanthropy as a therapeutic tool to actually help people lead happier and healthier lives. So I do believe giving liberates the soul, and I do believe that there are so many benefits to being a giver.
Oh, that's like straight up science.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. And before we get into talking about your new startup, Be Generous, so Giving is a very successful company that you started. And essentially, it's a digital platform that allows individuals and brands to digitize and essentially facilitate precisely that, giving. Can you give us just a little bit about what it is and why you started it in your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you've heard of Shopify. Shopify is a digital one-touch solution for instantly launching your e-commerce store. There are 2.2 million e-commerce stores in the United States. It's a huge market. They've been very successful. What most people don't realize is that there are 1.7 million nonprofits in America. virtually the same size market, and yet the cost, labor, and time of starting, running, and operating a nonprofit is very prohibitive. It's very expensive. It's very labor intensive, and it's very time consuming. So you have the cost portion of it, the labor portion of it, and the time portion of it. It takes a long time to get what is known as 501c3 status approved at the state level, the federal level, the local level. And so what we did is we created a digital one-touch solution for instantly launching your nonprofit project in a box, basically. So imagine us as, Forbes did a very nice article on us, and they called us the Shopify for nonprofits. So that's how I describe it. We are the Shopify for nonprofits. We power tens of thousands of nonprofit projects across the world. We power the nonprofit projects for a lot of entertainers and high-profile celebrities and companies, but also just your average everyday person who wants to do something and be philanthropic and start a giving campaign, start effectively what's considered sort of like a donor-advised fund, or start a nonprofit project where they want to get their website up and running, have grant tools, distribution tools, volunteer management tools. I mean, all of these things at various stages are part of the product offering that we have. And so that's what giving does.
Hey guys, I just want to remind you, if you want to find more content like this, you can visit sebastiannaum.com. That's Sebastian, Naum.com. You can also get a ton of other marketing resources from myself and my agencies, ranging from SEO to social media, influencer marketing, branding, web development, and more. Again, that's sebastiannaum.com. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the show.
I started it, I think, 7 years ago, and it's just been an incredible journey. It's a private technology company. It's a fintech company backed by venture capital money, but we have built a product that makes starting, running, and operating a nonprofit significantly more efficient. In fact, we reduce about 98% of the cost, labor, and time of starting a nonprofit. Very, very significant.
Yeah, that's great. The proper solution to a real problem out there that was really slowing
down.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. You guys have been able to generate a lot of impact through that. And your success and your experience with giving is what's eventually led you to your current startup, Be Generous, and which is essentially like a donate now, pay later platform that you're launching. And I want to drop this again because you just actually said that stat, but the U.S. nonprofit donation market is equivalent to the size and scope of the entire consumer e-commerce market in the US.
Yes.
What? That's mind blowing, right? So, and here are some other stats that have blown my mind. I had no idea before we got on this conversation. There are over $1 billion donated daily. 73% of Americans donate to nonprofits annually. That blew my mind. And 10% of Americans work for nonprofits. And the average individual donation to nonprofits is $1,050. So I'm hearing this and I'm like, well, what's the issue here? What's the problem that we're trying to solve? This sounds great.
Right. Yeah. So you are right. The market is extraordinarily big. It is the same size as the e-commerce market in the US. Americans do give away more than $1 billion a day. And 72% of all giving in the United States comes from individuals like you and I. Corporate giving is very low. Foundation giving is reasonably low. So it comes from people like us.
I would have thought it was 90. 90% was corporate giving.
Yeah, corporate giving is about 6%.
Wow. So we need to change that.
I wrote like an op-ed in Forbes sort of calling out corporations for, I would say, virtue signaling about how much they do philanthropically, but not really doing that much.
Wow.
So yeah, corporate giving is very anemic. Foundation giving about 18%. That a little bit less, but the rest is individuals. And so what's extraordinary is that last year total donations to U.S.-based nonprofits were just under $500 billion, $471 billion. And philanthropic giving on average goes up about 3% year over year. It's been increasing every year for many years. So the market is huge. The problem is that as the world becomes more chaotic, and particularly in the United States, we don't have a very strong social safety net, right? So why do we have 1.7 million nonprofits in America, whereas Norway and Sweden don't have anything like that? Most countries have nothing like that. We have a huge philanthropic sector, and Americans are incredibly generous and charitable, more than any other country in the world. The global philanthropic market around the entire world is valued at about $2 trillion on an annual basis. That's globally how much is donated. The United States is 1/5 of that market. So we're one of 193 countries in the world, but we are 20% of the global philanthropic market. I'm sorry, we're actually 25%. It's 1/4. We're 25% of the entire philanthropic market in the world, one country. And the reason being, though, to answer your question, is that we have a lot of problems in the United States, and we don't have a strong social safety net. Our government does not provide a strong social safety net. So nonprofits have sprung up to catch people that fall through. And as the world becomes increasingly chaotic, COVID, lockdowns, the war in Ukraine, energy spikes, inflation, homelessness, mental health problems, civil liberty issues, and so forth and so forth, nonprofits are needed more than ever today. The problem is that there's only so many times you can go back to the same donor base again and again and again. Right. And so what you end up happening is you're stressing your donors' bank accounts, you're stressing their checkbooks, and you're stressing their ability to continue to support. But because as I said earlier, Americans are so incredibly charitable, over 70% of Americans in the last poll said they wanted to donate more to their favorite nonprofit, but felt constrained by their current liquidity or cash position. So Americans actually want to give more, but they feel constrained in their ability to do so.
And so how does the platform work then? How does it solve that exact problem? How do we give more and solve that cash liquidity problem?
So have you heard of buy now, pay later companies like Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay? So these companies have been extremely successful. And what they've done is they've sprung up over the last 10 years and they've created a whole new industry called buy now, pay later. And those products allow you to do exactly what it sounds like they allow you to do. Buy a product now and pay for it later. They give basically an unsecured consumer loan to a purchaser. That purchaser can buy a television, can buy a refrigerator, can buy a washing machine, can buy a pair of jeans, whatever it might be. The merchant gets the money, the donor gets the consumer gets the product. And then the consumer pays that down over time. Usually, let's say, like I'm making up an example, but 10 payments, 12 payments of $100 a month with some interest. So what we've done, is we've created the first ever philanthropic credit product, which instead of allowing someone to buy now, pay later, allows someone to donate now, pay later. In effect, allowing the donor to finance a charitable contribution to a nonprofit. The nonprofit gets the full donation upfront in a lump sum. The donor gets the full gross tax deduction without spending any money out of pocket today. No money comes out of the donor's bank account. And then the donor chooses over a certain time period, 3, 6, or 9 months, how they want to pay that donation down with no interest, no fees, no transaction costs, no late fees, no hidden costs, absolutely nothing. We're simply taking the principal of the donation amount and allowing people to pay it over time while fronting all that money to the nonprofit and giving the donor the full tax deduction up front.
That's great. So how does, so I want to donate $60 just to make it easy. And I can't front the $60. I don't have that cash and I want to do it over 6 payments. So basically I'm going to pay $10 a month for 6 months.
That's right.
And then the organization gets the $60 now. I get the deduction right away. So let's say I did it in December for tax purposes. I could do it right away in December. Okay. And then the organization gets it right now. So there's essentially it's financial technology, right? Again, that we're looking at here. And now no interest.
That's right.
Incredible. So this is going to essentially I'm assuming it's going to encourage to donate more. Americans, you said 70% of Americans want to donate more. This is going to allow them to donate more, which means we're going to be able to give more, which means we're going to generate more impact, which is awesome. And so how do you make money?
Yeah, so that you're exactly right, by the way. I'll tell you this. In our early alpha testing and survey results, 83% of donors who had an opportunity to understand the product, watch our product video, engage with the product, 83% said that they would double their contribution if they had the ability to use donate now, pay later. And if you think about it, it makes a ton of sense, right? Imagine that you give $50 every year to like the Red Cross as an example. And so the way it normally works is you go to their website, you see the donate button, you put your $50 in on your debit card, or whatever it might be. After transaction costs, they probably get like $47, $48. The $50 comes out of your bank account. You get the tax deduction. The transaction is over. Now imagine you go to the Red Cross and we say, okay, Sebastian, how much do you want to donate today? And you say, I'm here to give $50. And we say, okay, instead of giving $50 and having that come out of your bank account, would you consider giving us $10 a month for the next 10 months? You're going to get the full $100 tax deduction today. Tax deduction will receive today. And the nonprofit will receive $100 in their bank account today. And you're going to pay $0 today, nothing. And in fact, your first payment isn't even due for 30 days. 83% of people accept that offer. They say to themselves, yeah, well, what's $10 a month? I could do $10 a month. So for me, I get to pay $10 over time, right? Each month, first payment's not due for 30 days. I'm walking away with a $100 tax deduction. I'm supporting an organization that I genuinely care about even more. And most importantly, the nonprofit's getting all that capital up front. So it is a win-win-win across the board completely. So that's basically how.
And I'll start to interrupt you. And so then the reason a lot of the times that, for example, I would be not so willing to do the monthly donations, which a lot of organizations offer, is because I'm sure a lot of people say, shit, I don't want to get into a monthly thing that I may just forget about,
That's
right?
right.
So this way it's like, okay, no, it's actually exactly $100, $10 a month. I'm not going to just forget about it. And then all of a sudden I find out that I've got, 5 different organizations that I'm donating monthly to that I completely forgot about, right?
That's exactly right. And you're also not paying interest. You're not paying transaction fees. You're not paying hidden costs. You're not paying late fees. It's totally free, right? So not only, and like you said, you forget it, you set it and forget it because you know that it's going to end at a finite time.
Yeah.
But you also know, more importantly, presumably you actually care about the nonprofit you're donating to. I guarantee you that nonprofit wants that $100 right now rather than 10 payments of, right? Or in this case, rather than, of course, the $50 that you intended to give, right? So they're getting more money on average. We're increasing the average donation value for nonprofits substantially, right? That's the goal, increase the average donation value while not stressing the donor's wallet or bank account by allowing them to pay over time for free, right? For free.
And it also, for the first time, Americans, I'm Argentinian originally, and I've known about inflation for a long time. But for the very first time, Americans are really, truly experiencing inflation. So this is also helping battle inflation, because at the end of the day, and not essentially battling the problem of inflation, but for the nonprofit, that $100 today means more than the $10 a month over the 10 months too. Because
it absolutely does.
Right.
I mean, for a nonprofit, I mean, a dollar in your bank account now is worth more than it is in a year from now because of the fact that we're running at 8.5% inflation, right? So giving them the capital up front now, the ability to use that capital up front now versus dripping in, this is a huge hedge against inflation. Huge.
100%. So how are you guys able to do this? It almost sounds too good to be true. How does Be Generous?
Yeah. So we raised a large venture capital round. We have some incredible venture capital funds, family offices, angel investors in the round. Including some of the leaders of the buy now, pay later movement, and some of the largest fintech companies in the world and their representatives are investors. But what we also did is we raised a huge credit lending facility. What I mean by that is that we have banks that have given us effectively capital in order to lend out. Because ultimately, this is a consumer lending product, right? We are lending capital on an interest-free basis, so it doesn't cost the donor anything to do this, but it is still an unsecured consumer loan. And so we have a very large credit lending facility to be able to do this. And so that's how it's all made possible.
So where's the interest coming from then?
Oh, so how do we make money? So we make money. Okay, so when the money comes to the nonprofit pays what's called an MDR, merchant discount rate. And the merchant discount rate is a pre-approved rate that the nonprofit has agreed to pay on each transaction. So you can think of it like if you've ever used like a GoFundMe or something like that, or Classy or Blackbot, all of these companies will put fees basically on these transactions, right? That's how they stay in business. That's how they make money. So ours is called an MDR, a merchant discount rate, or a nonprofit discount rate, if you will. And it's a pre-approved rate that the nonprofit agrees to ahead of time on each transaction basis. So that's how we basically are able to make money.
Yeah, that's great. And you have to make money. If you don't make money, you can't scale this, and you can't scale the impact.
That's right. If you don't make money, we can't do this. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Am I going to be able to donate crypto on the platform, by the way?
You will over time. Yes,
okay,
you
great.
will over time. Yeah.
Cool. And Dominic, who's behind this? Are you in general? Are you? Is this something that you got some people? I know you've worked with a lot of big names, celebrities in the past. Do you have anybody particular that you're going to be working on this that's behind this movement?
Yeah, we have a lot of famous folks involved, from some of the most well-known CEOs in the United States to some of the largest venture investors in the United States to many celebrity investors that we have. We're actually rolling the platform out in a couple of weeks with a couple of celebrity nonprofits. I'm not able to say who they are right now, but it will hopefully unveil itself shortly in the market.
Love that.
Yeah.
Dominic, what is your ultimate vision for the company? What does this look like in 7 years? What does success look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, so very clearly, the metric of success is unlocking billions and billions of dollars of additional liquidity for nonprofits. Mm-hmm. I mean, that effectively is what success looks like here. If you allow people to pay over time, in any industry, whether it's on a credit card that charges interest rates, by the way, that we don't, whether it's a buy now pay later product, whether it's a mortgage, whether it's a car payment, people are willing to spend more money because they can pay it out over time. The vast majority of Americans cannot go and put down $1 million on a home, but if you have it paid over 30 years, you're willing to do that, right? Yeah. So think about using that for good, as a force for good, right? I may not be able to give the Red Cross $1,000 today, But if you allow me to finance that over the course of a year, as an example, that becomes a lot more doable for me, or $500 or whatever it might be. And of course, the Red Cross is getting that money up front. Now, we're not working with the Red Cross. It's just an example. But success looks like unlocking billions and billions of dollars of additional capital for nonprofits right now. And imagine what that capital could do for people's lives. There are millions of people that rely on nonprofits for food, for shelter, for water, for education, for social services, right? And I'm not getting into a political debate here, but our government doesn't necessarily provide all of those things. But this is not Sweden and Finland and Norway. We're not a social democracy in the true sense of the word.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad is not the point. The point is there's a lot of people that rely on nonprofits for these services. And we need to ensure that our nonprofit sector remains healthy. And right now, it's not super healthy. There was a report put out very recently that said, unless something is done to alleviate the current liquidity problem in the nonprofit space, which was, of course, exacerbated by COVID, 4 out of 10 nonprofits in the United States will close within 3 years. I mean, just imagine that. You're talking, just for the viewers who are listening to this is an industry that holds $3.8 trillion worth of assets, $500 billion, of donations a year, and 10% of the American workforce. 1 out of every 10 Americans work for a nonprofit. And they provide, and there's 1.7 million of them providing services to millions and millions and tens of millions of people. So the idea that 40% of these nonprofits could go out of business, there could be a 40% contraction in the market, that would be a nightmare for the country. So we need to make sure that the sector maintains its ability to operate and maintains its ability to be healthy and vibrant. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, that right there would mean 4% of Americans lose their job.
Absolutely. It would be a disaster for real.
Wow. Yeah. That's wild, man. I'll let you go here shortly, Dominic. I want to ask you, what is the key in getting another person or group of people to believe in your vision so much to invest millions of dollars to help you achieve what you want to achieve?
It's a great question. It's a very good question. I would say there are 2 things which I've raised capital now for several companies, and I've raised a lot of venture capital money. And I would say it's really 2 things. A very, very, very thorough understanding of the marketplace that you're operating in, very thorough. I'm not sure if there's a question about philanthropy that I would be stumped on at this point. Now, I might have to think about it, and I might have to say, I'll get back to you. I want to give you a really good answer, but I'm not sure I would be completely stumped at this point. I know a lot about the marketplace that I've been running companies in. And the second is having passion. Passion, people talk about that as this sort of throwaway term. Investors respond to passion. Investors want to see that you are willing to work till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning every night, not because you're making tons of money, because you don't make tons of money in a startup, but because you genuinely care about the problem, you genuinely care about the company, you genuinely want to fix this issue. And passion cannot be, there's no substitute for passion. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how much time you have, how many people on your team you have. If you're not passionate, you're not willing to put in the hours, as we talked about when we started the conversation, there's no substitute. And a smart investor will pick up on that very quickly, I think.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have that, brother. So, and this question that we'll close on, you may lead right into that with that. What do you believe are the top 2 traits that a conscious leader must embody today?
That's a great question. Top 2 traits that a conscious leader would embody. So going back to what I mentioned earlier, wherever you go, there you are. Live in the present moment. I think there's just no substitute for that. And the second thing I would say is you have to maintain a level of respect and trust for those who work for you and with you. It is so important to surround yourself with people that you really respect and trust and can place faith in them, because no company is an island, no man is an island, no woman is an island. You need other people to succeed. I've seen so many great entrepreneurs fail because they wanted to do everything themselves. They didn't trust others, and they weren't willing to work collaboratively with others, and that's incredibly important. So I would say that's the other one.
Love that, Dominic. Well, thank you so much. You truly are a conscious leader yourself. Really appreciate what you do. Please keep doing what you do and bringing what you bring to the world, my man. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, people will be able to click on all the links that are necessary in the notes and get a hold of follow you on social, and of course follow Be Generous and Giving and all that good stuff. So thanks again for being on, my man. Truly a conscious leader. Keep doing you, brother.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. Would love to have anyone who wants to learn more come learn more, and we'll see you out there in the marketplace in a couple of weeks.
Love it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. You know, it takes a lot to put these things together, but I truly love doing it. If you enjoyed this episode or the show in general, and you listen to it on audio podcast, please take some time to give it a review. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you watch the video, please go ahead and just click subscribe and share it with somebody that you think would like it. It would really mean the world to me, and it helps keep the show alive. Visit sebastiannaum.com for more content and follow me on Instagram at sebnaum. That's SEBNAUM. Thanks again for spending your time with me. I know it is valuable. I hope you have a great rest of the day and week. Till next time.